Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I think we're live. I don't have my red camera over here today, so let us know in the comments there if you can hear us, if everything's going okay. Here to talk about Waltz of the Wizard, Natural Magic. It is out this week. I've played some of it, haven't gotten too far into the campaign. I am still trying to learn how to master the magical forces. I've just spent uh, basically the last month reading through the original Harry Potter again, getting prepared for natural magic to get that full wizard feeling. Joined here today by the head of Aldin Dynamics. Tell us who you are and tell us about natural magic.
Sure. I'm Hrafn Thorisson. I am co-founder and CEO of Aldin. And Natural Magic is our largest production to date. We've been around for a while, so that's saying something. But yeah, in the scope and breadth of what we're doing, it's definitely our largest launch yet, and we're not done yet.
Yeah, it's pretty apparent with this update that you're trying to reach something bigger. Do you have any kind of there's of course the magical forces that you can grasp with this gesture here, uh, basically pulling magic into your hands from the air around you, and then there's of course voice control where you can impact the world with your voice.
Yeah.
Where are you going with this? Where do you expect to be able to go in the next couple years?
So I think just mentioning our mission from the start is good at this point. Like I often describe us as not being a gaming company, really. When we started out, what we wanted to do were believable realities. We wanted to give you an experience of actually being somewhere and the world acting like you really were. And this is a direct continuation of that. We've been adding hand tracking to make things more believable when you're there. And with natural magic, what we're actually doing is simulating magic. It's not a trick. It's not um, a button you press and something comes out of your hand. The particles that we're working with are actually persistent and they move around you and they have qualities and they can affect the world differently. And so what it basically is a supernatural physics system. And that in itself like opens up a whole new world of what you can do with magic. And we're connecting that to your movements and gestures. So if we think about something like, many know the Avatar series, the anime series, where they control the elements with their hands and gestures, that's sort of what we're going for. We're trying to connect or add real magic to this virtual reality and make magic real there.
I definitely felt like there was a sort of a clicking in my head of exactly when I realized I could control this magic and really getting that grasping gesture right the first time and realizing, oh, I really can uh, bring magic into my hand. It is a magical moment to really kind of realize you have that power. And I apologize for the commenters out there. I did have live chat accidentally turned off for this stream, so we won't have any live comments out there. But people are liking the stream and watching us, so I think everything is coming across okay.
Nice.
I guess I'm curious how far you think you can take this system, and hand tracking. It seems pretty clear that you are big believers in hand tracking, barehanded, just open air, no controllers. Hand tracking, how far can you take this system with hand tracking, and when will we get sort of these new features with hand tracking?
Yeah. So I think the first step for us will always be to add it to the courtyard. So for those of you listening who haven't tried it, we added these two areas. One is a sort of a sandbox environment to learn magic, which is the courtyard of this magical tower that we previously had. And then there's the fortress, which is like 40 levels of intense gameplay, 7 enemy types and variations thereof. And you're collecting these tablets through that gameplay. And that's really intense. And so we all know like hand tracking has a long way to go. Like my hand disappears when I move too fast and things like that. So until the hardware and the tracking technology catches up to a point where we can find a way to make this intense action-centric gameplay work with hands, we'll probably keep doing iterative steps, like adding it to the courtyard, which is more peaceful. And with the natural magic system, we can start doing more nuanced things with it. So what we have now is just the basics of it. You can cast it, you can guide it with your hand, you can conduct enemies, snap them in half by twisting your wrist or throwing them into a wall to smash them. But with fingers and gestures, we can start doing more Doctor Strangey things. We can perhaps start experimenting more with, doing finger gestures to actually modify what the spell is doing, or doing symbols in the air to make it act differently. But in any case, it would still be like a physical system, and it would make sense in a way, like physics do in reality.
So I've got a bunch of your videos here, the little clips showing off various things, and they look okay. It might look a little weird for us here in the studio here, but it'll look fine for our viewers out there. I was looking on the stream; it looks okay. And the thing about this magic system that kind of gets me is it's been tried before. Magic has been tried before in VR. It's a pretty common idea to kind of think of having access to magical abilities. How many iterations did you sort of go through to arrive at this particular system? And I assume you've tried the other magical systems out there. What are you?
Yeah.
Are you able to get things to work here that others have failed at? And do you see sort of, I guess, what gives you that open road ahead of you that you really think you can take this to the next level, where other systems kind of have stopped in some cases?
Yeah. So, like, first of all, I don't know if anyone's tried this before. Like that, like one of the things that we try to do at Aldin is to push like innovation wherever we can. Like, we don't do all of it alone. Like we build on a lot of stuff that's been done already in VR. Like that helps us understand how to do things. But like in terms of other magic systems, they once you're there, once you have your hands, your physical movements, your voice, your head movements, soon eye tracking, and everything else, like those sorts of dynamics make such a difference in VR. So when you have something physically simulated, that opens up the kind of realistic dynamics that we know from the real world, and what like the movies in Hollywood make it look like. They make it look natural, as if it's a real thing. And in VR, it is a real thing if you do it that way. And to answer the question, like we went through countless iterations and different concepts, and some of them never reached beyond the concept stage, but we compared so many things, and even just right up until the release, we were still ironing out issues. And I expect we will keep doing that. Like, we don't feel that this is a perfect system. We just feel that, okay, we managed to make this prototype work. And it's actually working in my mind. You guys tell me, like, people are the ultimate judge of that. But I think it's working well enough that we see, like, yeah, we can take this further. We can connect this to different physical things. Like, for example, I like to think of natural magic like amplifying elements of reality. So in reality, we rub our hands together or rub something together, and it creates static electricity. We could implement our particles that way, that when you do this, they amplify it even more, giving you lightning powers. But like all of it chained by this sort of realistic approach to what magic should work like. And I think that's a fascinating road to go down. And I only see the possibilities expanding as more hardware gets added.
So the thought that occurred to me here was thinking about the way. Let's see if this video can come up here. you can grab some of the enemies. So the thing that really got me was being able to switch between magic and then literally just punching a guy that got too close to you, and then screaming at a projectile. Like doing those three things back to back to back is pretty uh, revelatory for me. And there's a lot of room for you to grow still. And going back over the 5 years, I was just sort of walking down memory lane and thinking about how Waltz of the Wizard was this sort of job simulator like playground at the start that was magically themed. And it was one of the first things that you could really play around with for free when you got some of the early hand controlled VR hardware. And then you obviously expanded that to the extended edition. And now you're moving up to Natural Magic. Was this a hard road to evolve from a free product to a paid product that's not too expensive to now a more premium paid product? And do you think this strategy is going to work?
Well, so far it's been working well, and that's in part thanks to all the wonderful people that are playing and supporting us and have supported us since day one. At the time when we first made it, like, we wanted to do a couple of things. We wanted to create an experience that showcased room scale, because at the time, the majority of the industry was convinced that gamepads were the future of VR, motion controllers were a novelty, and that did not mesh with us. That's not how we see the future of VR. And obviously today it's more obvious where things are going. But we decided to make it free at the time and to just try to make our childhood fantasies feel real. And to do that in a way that let us experiment with how do we make a world feel like reality. And that's why Waltz is so interactive in the tower area and why it has so many diverse things to do. It wasn't like the end for us. It was a way for us to explore, okay, we need to learn first how to make a reality. Then we'll figure out how to gamify it. And that's sort of the place where we're at now. We're gamifying more.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Is that going to continue in I'm getting that real impression from this design that you've added new fundamental systems, and that's your next step, is to figure out how to gamify it more and more. Is that the strategy you're going to keep going back to? Is that what you're doing?
Yeah, sort of. Well, it's at we are really innovation centric. We feel like we're at the start of VR, even today. So we're going to continue like experimenting and doing more, and sort of the foundations of Natural Magic are going to let us do that and continue that, adding details, adding weird interactions or interactions that you don't expect or haven't seen before. But still, we've hit a point, like with the company and with our production, where we can start doing more of more quantities, whether that's adding details or gamifying more, adding achievements and things. There's still a bunch of things coming to Natural Magic that we simply didn't have time to put in. But yeah, it's been working so far really well.
Has the team been growing? Do you have more people that you're able to work on this since you have gone over this 5-year journey?
Yeah, like for the longest time, we were just 3 people. That was just up until we deployed the extended edition, I think. And for those watching, like, you might want to know that the bulk of everything you see in Natural Magic was done by just 4 people plus myself. We added then 2 more in the latter half of development, and we have plans to hire quite a lot more in our next steps. And like, part of the process of running a company or growing a company is figuring out the production pipelines. What do we need, and how do we, like, what do we want to produce more of, or where do we need to strengthen ourselves? And that's sort of also what the Natural Magic production process gave us. It gave us the systems and the knowledge to sort of keep expanding further. And with the recent rise in the market, we are luckily now at a place where we can hire more people and we can start doing more of the, like, Danny Unger was talking about it recently, about like the grand vision that many of us have, and I share that mindset a lot. There's so much that we want to do, and now we're finally reaching places where we can actually start doing some of those things. So
Yeah, there's plenty of devs. So I was kind of blown away. I had the Walkabout Mini Golf dev in here fairly recently to talk about uh, their game, and I was surprised to hear that this was sort of their. They've done various things with AR, but it was their first VR game, and it's a uh, very good version of mini golf. It has you can throw away all the things that are kind of drawbacks with mini golf in the real world, with people pushing you along, uh, having to move your ball away from the wall. You can actually hit your putter through the wall. You don't have to worry about that. Um, and being able to have courses that you couldn't actually have in the real world. All those things are there, and they hadn't actually built games for 5 years, as some of these other devs have been doing. But there's this list of devs in my head of the Alchemy team, Anton Han, Denny Unger, yourself, and there's quite a few of them that have been at this for 5 years. And I guess is it scary to kind of have this new generation of devs that are able to just put something up on App Lab and compete with you quite rapidly? Or is there institutional knowledge that is giving you an advantage that's going to pay off in the coming years?
it definitely a welcome thing to see these new devs coming in. Many of them like have been doing a lot of things that I can build on that. Like we don't no single company in VR has the resources to do like a fraction of what's possible with VR. So I welcome any developer into the space. Like it's wonderful to see all the progress that's been made recently, and if they can build on our work, that's wonderful as well. I want to push this further. I want to see VR grow. I want to see all of those things that we all dream about become possible, and we have to do that together. But thankfully, we also have, after actually we've been in the space for 8 years now,
Mm,
like since the DK1 2013 days, and thankfully that also gives us like a war chest of techniques, algorithms, technologies, and things that will let us keep building at least on what we are specializing in. So, from a commercial perspective, that helps. That helps us. And
mm,
like my recommendation to any new dev is to think that way. Like you need to grab specialization at some point to help yourself distinguish like yourself from everyone that might come as things start growing. It's going to get harder. We're going to probably see the big companies come in again, and it's going to get even harder then. So now is your time. Now is the time to like build up your fort before things
mm.
start moving faster.
What so a couple years from now, do you think people are going to be using VR headsets mostly without controllers? I gotta put you on the spot with that question.
I think we'll keep having both and some hybrid thereof. Like in my mind, I'm still at a place where I'd like to see not necessarily a glove, but some kind of glove-like contraption that would give us a little bit of haptics, improve the tracking a bit, make it more reliable. Index is a step in the right direction when it comes to sort of mixing the two, but there's a lot that they can do better there, I think. And
Mm,
I don't think we've still seen some kind of hybrid that would work both for like I don't want to say hardcore gamers. I just mean for a broad audience and a broad set of applications. I feel like there's still things that can be done there, and we'll probably see as we advance.
Mm.
But in any case, like for some, and to answer the question directly, I think for many use cases, we will hit a point in the next few years where hand tracking alone can work for a really broad range of applications. Like super fast movements and things like that will still require some sort of tracking technology attached to your hand in one form or another for a while. I don't think optical tracking is going to be enough alone. But maybe some kind of mix of like the neural input Facebook is doing, or some kind of thing that you strap on yourself.
Yeah, if you've got a risk-controlled sort of input system that could really, obviously, Facebook bought this company called Control Labs, and I've got my Apple Watch here, which Apple has rolled out some significant software updates for accessibility to the Apple Watch, so you can do some gestures, and they're recognizing just based on your wrist-based sensing of various sensors there. They're able to figure out some of the gestures you're making with your hand at the wrist. And then Control Labs being the Facebook company that they bought, that's also pursuing wrist-based device that's basically looking inside some of the signals that are going through your wrist to your hand to figure out what's going on there. Yeah, if you could really dynamically figure out little intricate gestures. I think the thing that kind of gets me about what you're doing, though, is I'm frustrated and happy to have the controller in my hand at the same time. Like I like having the haptic feedback, but yeah, I also want to drop them down and put them down and just do these things with my hands as well. I played Hand Physics Lab through did all the puzzles in Hand Physics Lab. It's a great hand-controlled only experience, but there was one or a couple of these puzzles that are gravity puzzles where you've got this kind of telekinetic force and you're able to pull things. And there's a couple other powers extending from your hands, as I recall. But I remember like feeling like my fingertips, if I moved them just the right way, it was going to unlock some kind of magical force that it just wasn't built for, and I couldn't actually do. I didn't have the precision, and the developer actually didn't intend for me to do it that way. And I was just going down the absolute wrong route with my input controls in how to solve those particular puzzles. But like I guess you're working at the edge of what you can do with these things. One of the ones you've got in the hand tracking is the ability to put your fingers apart and have a slingshot here that you're able to do this and then pull back an object that isn't there and release it from your fingers. And it is literally magical, that sort of interaction and being able to do it. But now I go back to these controllers and I don't have that interaction system because I've got objects in my hand. And so like there's this push and pull with your software here where I want to be able to kind of drop the controllers and do more of these magical things, these intricate things with my fingers moving, but it's just not there yet, to your point about the quality. And that's why I'm going to keep bugging you year after year after year, I guess, to see sort of when we're going to get full Harry Potter magic where I'm when you watch the Marvel Wanda Maximoff movies and you see her doing these intricate little movements with her fingers to control magic, you do as a fan, want to be able to do this magical thing, and it's just not there yet. So I don't know how far you're able to build on the current Quest 2, where you assume that there's millions of these Quest 2s out there now. How far are we actually going to be able to take it on this generation technology? And obviously, we know a Quest Pro is being considered by Facebook. We know Apple's heavily considering a headset. We know that we've got some of the specs out of the PlayStation, next generation PlayStation headset, and the haptic triggers that actually push back at you. I suppose I'll start there. Have you messed with the DualSense at least? And does that unlock ideas for you?
I am ashamed to say that I have not, but I have tried similar technologies, like haptic trigger technologies, so I'm familiar with the concept. And like we are real haptic geeks. We use haptics a lot, both for utility to help the user understand how to do things, and for sensations. And so we do a lot of subtle variation in haptics in Waltz. And things like the trigger from Sony is really exciting to me. That opens up a new dimension in like what we can do or communicate to the user when he's interacting with the world. And so with things like hand tracking, you need to substitute that lack of haptics in my mind, and use visuals and things, and to sort of fill in the blanks that your brain is no longer receiving signals for. But like, again, like I agree with you so much on like I like and dislike at the same time having controllers. Like they give me a much more precise input. But at the same time, I still want to do all these things as if I were there. And when I have a controller, it's not really that full feeling in my mind. So we have to find some kind of angle to combine both of these worlds eventually. And yeah, but in any case, we're excited for both worlds of this. Like there are things we can do with the haptics and the controllers that we can't do with hand tracking, and vice versa. So our plan is basically to keep pushing both and to experiment with what we can with optical hand tracking. And we can push it quite far. Like one of the key things that I think aren't discussed enough in VR is it's not just about the hands. It's not just about your voice. It's not just about your eyes. It's about all of these things combined. And for something like natural magic, it's not entirely inconceivable that we could do a gameplay mode that actually feels okay with hand tracking, but it would be completely different kind of gameplay than using controllers. We'd be relying more on perhaps using a combination of mic input and gestures to alter the gameplay and to make the gameplay different, or the combat and the interactions and the spells would be different. So I think like something like Quest 2 can be pushed a lot further. Like if we had more people, if we were already there, in terms of capacity, we would be doing a lot more and showing off a lot. Like we have a long list of stuff that we want to do that we simply haven't had time for yet. But yeah.
Have you already seen the sales numbers come in from the? Have they started to roll in? I don't know how delayed your sales data is, but I have to ask whether you think it is literally going to level you up, being able to go from $10 per copy to $20 per copy. And it's one of these things out there. We try to educate our audience and make sure that they really understand that you're putting real dollars in real devs' pockets in order for them to build more of the things that you love when you go and buy the software. And I don't know how to quantify and really get those stories across to the buyers out there, who can be pretty brutal about wanting things for free and very cheap, when they don't quite understand this exchange. So, I mean, how quickly do you see those sales numbers roll in? And literally one day into this new product being on the market, are you actually going to be able to hire more people?
Well, yeah, we take a rather sensible and realistic approach usually. Like that's a part of why we've been able to survive this market for 8 years and up until this point where more revenue starts rolling in. Like we are really Spartan in our expenses. We've kept the team small, and like to help you communicate to people what that's like the commitment and the passion of the team to me has been incredible. and the work that they've done under tough circumstances is immense. And pushing things like we're doing with the innovation, when we want to like deliver to you those things that you want from VR, like that's dangerous. That's literally dangerous. Like you never know if something works out. It sounds great on paper, but when you implement it, you never know the outcome. You gain a sense for what might work, and you gain a sense for probabilities of failure. But there's no guarantees. And so in our case, like we save wherever we can. We're not partying every weekend, or like we literally do things to curb the expenses still to this day. Like it's still a small market in the grand scheme of things. But like with the success of Quest and the continued growth on the PC side as well, we're at least at a place where we're starting to be able to save up, and that's something we've been doing for a while. So and we're breaking even. We started breaking even a couple of years ago. So we're at a place where we're very confident in growing the team, and like the hirings and the plans right now is something that we can actually do. And to those watching, like that's thanks to you. Like when you buy our product, when you keep using our product, it gives us confidence. It shows us you like it. And that gives us this passion and determination to keep pushing things and to keep taking risks. And yeah, that's the place where VR is at right now. We need to keep and sustain the growth that's going on. And to do that, I think we need to keep pushing things. And I think it would be wonderful if consumers and developers could just collaborate on that. We all want to see these things happen. And guys like Cloudhead or Job Simulator, they're all taking risks left and right in like what they do and how they do it, using expenses not to increase their salary, but to push innovation, to do more risky projects. There's quite a lot of people like that in VR that are driven by passion and want to help the industry succeed and give everyone really cool experiences. And that's working. Like it's working. We're literally seeing numbers increase and usage increase. And so that's a wonderful thing that's been going on for the past few years.
So in the well, I got to ask about the guy in the well. How do I help him? Where's the rope to help that guy out?
He is beyond help, unfortunately.
Okay.
So what Ian is referring to is like we have a lot of Easter eggs in Waltz, and right now most of them are in the tower, but we at least managed to add a few to the courtyard before we released, and one of them is a guy in a well that reacts to when you throw things down there.
Yeah, he was asking me for a rope, and I looked around for a rope, and just kind of threw my hands up and went on my journey.
We do have plans to add more richness to the courtyard as we go forward, like more mini experiences and like Easter eggs hunts like the tower has.
Yeah, that's I think Walkabout Walkabout has these hidden eggs across every course, hidden eggs, hidden balls, lost balls, and every single hole, or not every hole, but most holes have a ball hidden around the course. And it's incredibly fun to find these Easter eggs, and it's literally just a ball sitting there hidden behind a bush. But it gives me a reason, it gives me this little activity that I can participate in when I'm on a larger mission. And I think there's even realizing that there's these little scurrying creatures in Natural Magic going around these levels, and I hit a couple of them with some magical bursts, and they curled up like a roly-poly and died right there. And those little things are really fun to discover, so I can't wait to see what sort of things you add there.
That's great. Did you catch the prisoners in the cells in the fortress?
No, I haven't. I haven't seen them yet.
That's another one of those small.
Oh, wait, I did hear
just
some
additional details.
Yeah, I heard some voices, and it's very creepy, that feeling of being in a fortress and when you hear a random voice come out of nowhere, you start wondering, wait, is that actually in the room with me, or was that in the headset? And that is a very creepy feeling. Is there anything else that people should know about natural magic at this point in time, and where you're going with it?
Well, just that effectively it's a base system, and we're welcoming all feedback. Like, we know natural magic isn't perfect. There's a lot that we still want to get in there, and both for the magic system and for the fortress itself and the enemies. Like the reactions of the enemies, they have these dodging mechanics, and defend themselves with their hands. Feedback on all of this is great for us, and we have a Discord, and if you want to give us direct feedback, the team is there. In other ways, just thanks for the reception of natural magic. It's been wonderful, and like, the people seem to be really enjoying themselves, at least considering the gifs and videos that are coming out. Thanks so much for the reception.
Hmm. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, and I'm sorry about the comments out there. I know you've all probably been wanting to ask your questions. I did have one question I think I saw on Twitter asking you for subtitles in Spanish. That
Yeah.
was one of the questions out there. Do you have anything to say for that person out there asking that question?
Yeah, we are actively considering subtitles in various languages. I don't have an ETA on that though. It's on one of our long lists of things, but it's definitely something that's come up, and we will address it at some
Awesome.
point.
Well, again, thank you so much for joining us. We'll be back in the studio on Monday for our live show about tech and trends in the overall VR industry. We've obviously had the holiday here in the United States, and then getting back into it. There's a lot of game releases coming out. Make sure to visit UploadVR.com for all the latest news, reviews, and interviews. And thank you so much for joining us. We'll have you back again. I think you're a two-time visitor to our studio
Yeah,
now, but keep these updates coming, and we'll have you back and keep exploring this new
yeah,
technology with you. Thank you so much, and we'll see you in the
awesome. Thank
future.
you. Thank you.